Japan's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping just last month in South Korea on the sidelines of the APEC summit. It was a warm meeting full of bonhomie and handshakes. But now, just a few weeks later, the relationship between Beijing and Tokyo has come off the rails. Xi Jinping and his wolf warriors have unleashed a wave of reprisals against Japan over a recent comment made by Prime Minister Takaichi about defending Taiwan. Beijing considers Taiwan as an unfinished part of its history, which it hopes to reunite with the mainland someday in the not-too-distant future. This dispute poses an early test for Sanae Takaichi, who took office just last month, the first ever woman to serve as Prime Minister in Japan's history. As a lawmaker, she was a vocal critic of Xi Jinping, criticizing China's militarization of the South China Sea. She even once visited Taiwan to show solidarity with its leaders. Taiwan is a self-governed island, a democracy which is home to 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductor manufacturing. Takaichi has her task cut out. She has to avoid an escalation with China while still projecting strength at home. Nobody expected that her tenure would begin with a full-blown row with China, but now she has to manage the damage. The challenge is how to de-escalate without appearing to cave into China or appearing to back down.
Since there are issues and challenges between Japan and China, I believe we should reduce them and increase understanding and cooperation. Japan remains open to various forms of dialogue with China. We have not closed any doors. It is important that within this context, Japan insists its positions where necessary. We will continue to respond appropriately based on this stance.
The Chinese government has urged its citizens not to visit Japan, and that would sap a major source of tourism. About 7 million Chinese tourists visit Japan every year. Beijing has also signaled this week that it might move to restrict the import of Japanese seafood, particularly Japanese shrimp. China has also dispatched its Coast Guard ships last week to patrol around the disputed islands, which China calls Diaoyu and the Japanese call Senkaku. These are disputed islands in contested waters which are claimed by both countries. Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President Donald Trump also had a telephone call this week, the first since their meeting in Busan last month. The issue of Taiwan did come up in that call, with Xi Jinping reminding Trump that Taiwan was an unfinished part of the post-Second World War order and that it needs to be restored. China desperately wants to take Taiwan and break through the US First Island chain. The First Island chain stretches from the Kuril Islands in the north all the way through Japan, the Ryukyu Islands, Taiwan, and eventually ends in the northern Philippines. This serves as a natural geographic barrier that restricts China's access to the broader Western Pacific and also is a cornerstone of American strategy to contain China's naval expansion. It goes all the way back to the Cold War. A Chinese naval blockade or an invasion of Taiwan would be a direct assault on this barrier. It would be highly dangerous for American national security. Taiwan anchors this strategy. Taiwan is often described as an unsinkable aircraft carrier. An invasion would escalate a full-blown war, as Chinese forces could seize Taiwan's ports and its airstrips, and that would enable forward bases for strikes on American assets, whether in Japan or in the Philippines. China views this as US-led encirclement. But seizing Taiwan would flip this dynamic on its head. It will allow China to project power beyond its coast, and that would threaten American sea lines of communication for up to 80 or even 90% of Japan's energy imports, as well as global commercial routes. If Taiwan falls, then the US will be forced to retreat to its second island chain, which is in Guam and Palau, and that would be at great cost to American security.
日方在与中国台湾邻近的西南诸岛部署进攻性武器，刻意制造地区紧张，挑动军事对立。联系到日本首相高市早苗的涉台错误言论，这一动向极其危险，需要引起周边国家及国际社会的高度警惕。
Japan is indispensable as America's linchpin in Asia. It hosts more than 50,000 American troops. It provides logistics, intelligence, and access to military bases for America. In a Taiwan invasion scenario, Japan could invoke collective self-defense and help the United States through anti-submarine warfare in the Miyako Straits. Japan's defense build-up, including its decision to buy Tomahawk missiles and also increase military spending to 2% of GDP, will be essential for it to defend itself against Chinese interests and Chinese hegemony. And therein, Japan's decision to move missiles just barely 100 kilometers off the coast of Taiwan is a critical defensive move. China has a record of economic coercion. During the dispute that happened between China and Japan over these disputed islands back in 2010, China limited the export of critical minerals to Japan, including rare earth metals. Chinese state media urged boycotts of South Korean companies who were operating in China in 2017 when South Korea decided to install an American missile defense system. This latest dispute between China and Japan began early November when Sanae Takaichi was fielding questions in the Japanese parliament. A lawmaker from a rival party asked her about potential survival-threatening situations. Now, this, under Japanese law, allows the deployment of the country's military forces. Takaichi said that an attempt by China to blockade or seize Taiwan, which is less than 70 miles from Japan, would invite a response from Japan. No previous Japanese Prime Minister has said so explicitly. This led to a major backlash by China. Takaichi later said that her remarks did not constitute a change in Japanese policy, but her comments provoked a furious response from Beijing, something that she is struggling to control even now, well after 2 weeks after those comments were made.
Fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.